I thought it'd be fun to take a look at some older mixes. I want to go through those old productions and see how I would improve on those today. So today we're going to be looking at a song called Cool Kid that I wrote with my band Barnes and Hart back in 2019. All right, so let's go ahead and listen to the track.
I was 12 years old, found my way, walking through my neighborhood, was led astray by some kids who thought they were cool, making noise in the basement after school.
Frankie, stop eating stuff. Frankie keeps eating stuff, so we have to keep him separate. In 2019, I feel like this is like some of the best work that I've done. For the first time, I feel like I was really starting to understand concepts, and I just dug down and did it. I was really proud of this. Everything kind of feels like it's the same volume. It doesn't really feel like there's that many dynamics to the song. So this is the original production for the song. There's a good amount of stuff going on, but not too terribly much. So one thing, I don't have the original drum samples, so I went ahead and replaced it with this kit. I call it the Mean Mr. Mustard kit. No reason. It's just a normal sounding punchy rock kit. So typically when I'm mixing something from scratch, I try to take out as many plugins as I can. I want as much of a blank slate as possible. And that's just me. Some producers prefer to have all the plugins and then they just make tweaks from there. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the drum kit. I like to start with drums because typically that's the foundation of my song. So these drums are kind of pre-mixed, but I know there's probably going to be a couple of little tweaks here and there that I make to it. So my drums sound good there for now. We'll see if we need to make any more tweaks along the way. All right, now it looks like we have a tambourine. So I didn't really do much to it. I just pulled some of the tone back. This is Logic's Tambourine's Performance. So thankfully there's just a couple off the cuff things that I can do here. I added a little more ambience and a little more reverb. Looks like there's, I think this is a sub kick. Yep, sure is. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at what some of these guitars are doing. All right, so these two guitars right here are just doubling this little motif throughout the whole song. I think that guitar tone is a little too thin, so I'm just going to adjust the presence in the microphone position and see how that gets me. All right, and since these two are the same thing, I'm just going to pan them real quick and then put them in a stack. I like doing track stacks in this instance just because I want to use less processing power, because basically these two are going to be tuned identically. So it doesn't really make much sense to apply the same effect twice when I can just do it once. Let's just go ahead and add a little color to it. And I'm purposefully breaking it up a little bit. This is supposed to be a very tight but messy sounding song. So I do kind of want to push the barriers a little with distortion and processing. Clean is not the right word for this. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and put this LA2A type compressor on it. All right, and I really want to clean up a lot of that high end. Kind of want to make it a little boxy as well. All right, so next we have this guitar. which is this descending, distorted type thing. I'm horrible with coming up with names for stuff. So I'm just noticing a common trend, what I used to do with amps. I used to get a lot of presence out of them, but they don't need that much. A lot of times we think we have to put all these highs into guitars, but guitars don't sit in the high range. They sit in the mid range. So that control is very important. All right, so I'm gonna put the same 3 plugins that I put on the last guitar on this. And for a lot of these, I really like to overcompress them. It's not really a reason why I want to do it. And just to listen to the dynamic difference, I'm not really doing much. Sure, it's being driven a little, but it's just a compressor, a really simple compressor, and an EQ. So this is before and after. It just gives it an attitude, you know? All right, so what is this guitar? Ooh. That's a fun one. So it looks like I'm using a vibrato, some delay. Let's turn this delay up a little bit. And then same thing with the amp. I mean, look at the treble. It's turned all the way up and it's not very pleasant. I am hearing some specific frequencies giving me some problems. I'm not a big fan of doing surgical EQ just because it's not really my style, but let's go ahead and look where we're having issues. Right here. So for the processing on this, again, same 3 plugins, not really doing anything too crazy. I lower the compressor a lot on this one because I don't really want those sharp transients to come through. And let's go ahead and blend that in. All right, I'm gonna send this to a reverb bus. One really common thing I see folks do is that a lot of people don't really EQ their reverb. There's not really a right or wrong way to do it, but I really think that reverb is the strongest in the mid-range. I mean, just listen to that difference. All right, so let's figure out what is going on with the bass. So this sounds like it's over compressed. What I'm gonna do is this famous bass trick. So one of these bass channels is going to be the amp sound, and then the other one is gonna be a deep DI. So we'll choose this first one. Stop. So I rolled out some of the low end on this. It's still not really where I want it to be. Maybe we should try a different amp. Oh, 100%. So it's still really muddied. All right, let's go ahead and open up Virtual Mix Rack so we can take care of some of the dynamics. I think I'm gonna use this vintage 1176 on the bass. Then I'm gonna use this Neve style EQ. And maybe I should add a preamp to it just to dirty it up a little bit. So now I'm gonna focus on this other bass part, which is going to be the deep bass. So I'm gonna go ahead and change this to a direct box, turn the tone shaper on, high cut on. And there's just so much rich DI characteristics in this. That's why I always recommend if you're gonna record a bass, sure, recording a bass amp is awesome, but definitely record DI as well, just so you can kind of play with the two. All right, so that's a pretty deep sound. So here's where the trick comes in. So on the first bass, the one that is replicating an amp, I have a high pass at 125 hertz. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a low pass at 125 hertz. So essentially what this is doing, the bass amp with all the rich harmonic tonal goodness, that's getting the low end cut out so it can focus on what it's doing where it belongs in the mid range. And then the deep sub part, that is just focusing on the low end, and we're going to blend the two. All right, so now we have all of these guitars in this section. If I remember correctly, these are just really reverb drenched, kind of like slow arpeggios. I definitely don't like how clean that is. And again, same thing with the treble. Let's go ahead and add a drive pedal to this. And I think I'm going to add these to bus 2 as well. Any help, buddy? Oh, you want like up? Okay. Oh, so this is really cool. So these two are actually a part of the same channel. One is just an octave up. I'm actually going to bust these together as well. Little homie's tuckered out. A single dad who works too hard. All right, so it looks like panned hard left and right. I had these sort of washy guitars. Which that is just too clean. Man, I was really, really okay with just letting these sound this clean. Which there's nothing wrong with. It's just that is not the vibe, my friends. And I'm not going to pan these hard left and right because I don't really think that they belong there. All right, so let's go ahead and get these in a track stack. So this is what it sounded like before and after. All right, so now we are moving on to the chorus guitars. All right, so I could tell you right now, these both need noise gates. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that tone. I definitely think it needs to be a little more up the fuzz end. So I think for this track stack, I'm definitely going to ride the preamp a lot harder. I want it definitely to sound like it's breaking the speakers. It could be the wrong decision. I don't know. I dialed back some of the drive. I wasn't really getting the tone that I wanted, but I am satisfied with what I have now. So this is without the processing and with. So it's just a little more aggressive. All right, what is this guitar? Oh my goodness. That's definitely a statement. Let's see what happens when we send it to bus 2. So next to that is this high shrieking shrilly guitar. I'm just gonna apply the same, what we got going on from this other fuzz guitar. That's so gnarly. All right, looks like we have one more guitar. All right, so it looks like it's doing what this guitar is doing. So I might actually just copy over exactly what they're doing because I like that tone anyway. I actually think this one can probably be more distorted. Yeah, that sounds better. Man, why did I go so clean on this song? All right, so we also have some pianos and effects. I'm gonna start with this piano. The one I used before was the Grand Rhapsody by Waves. I don't have it anymore, so I'm replacing it with this Oliver Patrice Weeder. Oliver's piano, it's probably one of my favorite piano samples that's out there. It's just this nice, delicate upright. And I'm gonna give it the same treatment that I'm doing everything else. Nothing is safe from being overdriven. All right, let's do some of this low end control. Looks like I have this classic electric piano as well. I don't really know what I had on that. Oh. So if we're going to distort that, let's give it the treatment. And I definitely want to widen this up a little more. So I'm going to put on the Magic switch maybe. This is a free plugin by Baby Audio. Emulates that old Roland one knob chorus. Oh yeah. All right, so for the chorus, I have these other two synths here called Broken Circuit. Ooh. I don't really like that. I don't even know where to begin making that different. Maybe I'll just send it to a reverb bus and just make it super big. And this other one's really cool. It's really mellow. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at these vocals. All that I have on these so far is just a little pitch correction. I think these were recorded with an Audio-Technica AT2020, and that was through Tascam 1608. Does it matter? It doesn't. It really doesn't matter.
I was 12 years old when I found my way, walking through my neighborhood, I was led astray.
I think I kind of want these thin, hall, tight, compressed vocals.
Walking through my neighborhood, I was led astray by some kids I thought they were cool, making noise in the basement after school. I would write down what I couldn't speak out. Talking is harder when you get shut down. I was 12 years old when I found my way. Walking through my neighborhood, I was led astray.
All right, so this is the before vocal.
I was 12 years old when I found my way.
Let's add some effects.
Walking through my neighborhood, I was led astray by some kids I thought they were cool, making noise in the basement after school. I would write down what I couldn't speak out. Talking is harder when you get shut down.
And then I have this harmony here.
I would write down what I couldn't make out. Talking is harder when you get shut down.
I don't even think that the cadence matches. Wow, Trevor, good job. Way to really put in the extra effort.
But these kids help me see, never know what I really wanted to be.
Wow, that's not great. I wonder why I drenched it with reverb.
But these kids help me see, never know what I really wanted to be.
All right, and I'm going to add this plugin by Kilohertz called Haas. Basically, it just turns a mono signal into stereo by duplicating and offsetting the channels. All right, so this is before the plugin and after. All right, now for these vocals, I think that they're just normal.
I can't go back to better days.
Man, I can feel myself struggling as I sing that.
Now I can't go back to better days. Now I can't go back to better days.
All right, so for the EQ, I used this template called Thick Vocals, and I just made a couple adjustments. And now I'm going to add one final compressor on there.
Now I can't go back to better days. I can only play it on my basement tapes.
I'm going to see what happens if I add the same tape delay that was on the other one.
Now I can't go back to better days. I can only play it on my basement tapes.
Sounds a little too bright, and I feel like I can push that first compressor a little more.
Now I can't go back to better days.
All right, and then we just have a double, which I'm going to change the EQ up. I'm just going to take most of the low end out.
Now I can't go back to better days. I can only play it on my basement tapes.
And actually for this, I think I'm going to add the stereo plugin as well.
Now I can't go back to better days. I can only play it on my basement tapes.
I think that sounds pretty good. All right, now I think I have two harmony vocals here.
Now I can't go.
Wowza. So these are just vocal transformed octaves.
Now I can't go back to.
Now I know that sounds really weird on its own, but when you blend it in, it sounds so good.
Now I can't go back to better days. I can only play it on my basement tapes.
Cool beans, man. All right, now it's these two vocals, which I think this one is just a normal vocal.
I was a cool kid.
I was horribly mistaken. That one's supposed to be a fuzz vocal, which of course, if there's no fuzz on a fuzz vocal, it sounds horrible.
I was a cool kid.
This is the normal one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put the same plugins as the other vocal.
I was a cool kid. I was a cool kid. I was a cool kid.
Now for these, I'm just going to put maybe a clip distortion over it. Maybe if I put the distortion before the processing. Ooh, and let's put the stereo plugin on it as well. And of course, drench it in reverb.
I was a cool kid. I was a cool kid.
All right, so I think that is a good place to stop adding and mixing. Next, I'm going to focus on getting this polished, glued, and master ready. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a tape. I'm going to be adding the TEC A6100. Next, I'm going to do some EQ with the Analog Obsession OAQ. All right, so as you can see, not a lot of EQ was added. So let's just hear that difference real quick. It was off and on. I'm debating on adding fresh air as well. Let's just see if it makes any difference. I really don't want this mix to be super clean, but let's just see. I think that little bit of a difference actually helped a lot. This is before fresh air and after. So again, we don't want a lot of that high-end clarity, but there's just enough to kind of get us out of the mud. All right, and the last plugin that I'm going to add is this Master Desk by Brainworks. I talk about this plugin all the time. It's definitely one of my favorites. right, so I think we're pretty much done. Let's go ahead and take a listen all the way through to our new mix of Cool Kid.
I was 12 years old when I found my way. Walking through my neighborhood was led astray by some kids that thought they were cool, making noise in the basement after school. I would write down what I couldn't speak out, talking is harder when you get shut down. But these kids, they found me, see, never done what I really wanted to be. Now I can't go back to better days. I can only play on my basement tapes. I was a cool kid. I was a cool kid. I was a cool I was 21 when I found myself. Found a way to cope with what got me down. Took a little time to get my head on right. Lighting up the tunnel from dark to light. Come on with some music, don't you lose it again. Rolling with the thunder coming under my breath. Now I can't go back to better days. I can only play on my basement tapes. I was a cool kid. I was a cool kid.
I am not gonna lie, I really like how that turned out. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another video. If you liked it, I do hope that you consider subscribing. Definitely let me know in the comments as well what you may have done differently. Ugh, you stink. Also, if you are in need of work on your project, whether it's mixing, mastering, custom production, or if you're a producer that needs coaching or mentoring, go to my website down in the description, trevbarnes.com. Send me a request and I'd love to help you out with your project. But thank you guys as always for tuning in. I will see you in the next one. Peace.